So currently I'm trying to organize all of my yarns, but at the moment I actually don't have enough space for all of these that are on the table right now. So for today's video, I'm actually going to be upgrading my space a little bit so that I can make room for my yarns. And I also want to properly store all of my yarns in this cart right here, and also the yarns that I have in the container over there. Currently, the only yarn storage that I have are these two bins right here that I got from IKEA in the past when I just started out crocheting. These are actually the IKEA Sotera bins, but clearly these two are actually no longer enough because they are both already filled to the brim, as you can see here. I know I should probably declutter some of them, but we'll actually see as we go when I start reorganizing my yarn around. So what I'm thinking to do is to get another set of this IKEA Ivar unit as an extension for my yarn corner, but this time without the drawers. So it'll just be like a simple shelving unit, and then kind of add like a little cabinet storage kind of thing so that I can segregate my yarn so that it's easier to find and grab. That's the overall idea that I have at the moment. I have already ordered a few stackable cabinets online just to try it out first because I'm still a little bit undecided on whether I want to get another Ivar unit. So yeah, I will talk to you guys again when my stackable cabinets are here. Okay, so I'm done assembling all of my stackable cabinets, and if you've seen my unboxing footage earlier, you will know that there's this one particular cabinet that I have missing handles, which is honestly pretty frustrating. And the seller is basically saying that they can't refund me for this one cabinet piece, but they can only refund me for the handles only, because I did receive the cabinet just not with the handle, which I thought was kind of ridiculous because I can't even use the cabinet without the handles. So I don't really see a point in me like keeping this cabinet without the handles. So the other option that they are suggesting is that I actually return this whole thing, which is essentially all 5 of this cabinet, since I actually purchased them as a 5-tier stackable cabinet. But it's just kind of frustrating because everything is okay except for this one particular one that doesn't have the handles. So I am checking with them to see if they have like an extra set of handles that they could just ship it to me, but honestly at this point I do think it's pretty unlikely that they do have an extra set. So I'm probably just gonna have to return this thing. I actually still want to reorder this stackable cabinet, but I'm just not sure if I want to reorder this from the same seller again. But anyway, in the meantime, I basically just stacked this cabinet on top of my IKEA bins, which kind of works perfectly right there. So I might temporarily leave it in this setup until I decide whether I want to get the Ivar unit or not. But I guess if you're watching this video, I would have probably decided to get the Ivar unit anyway. So I guess we shall just move to that footage. Okay, so here we are, staining wood again. Honestly, I thought I wouldn't need to do this again, or at least not that soon, but clearly my hobbies have expanded and so does my storage space. So this is what we're going to be working with today. Thankfully this time around, I actually don't need to stain that many pieces. I only have this side panel that I need to stain it black, and also these two shelving panels. So it's not too bad actually. I also still need to check if my wood stain and my hard wax oil is still okay to use. Okay, so the moment of truth. I think this one still looks okay. I probably just need to stir it a little bit. Okay, let's check the black one. This one too, I think. Probably need to stir it because it looks a bit gray right now. Okay. Oh, think I might not be able to use this one because it's a little hardened, but let me try stirring it a bit. Yeah, I think I can probably still use it. It's only the top layer that's really hardened. The inside is actually still liquidy, so yeah. And then this is the brown wood stain. Honestly, I think the color already lightened a lot, so I'm not sure if I can still use this, but we'll see. I think it's okay because it's turning darker now compared to just now. And then lastly will be this black one. Let's see if this one turns to black after I stir it. Okay, this one is not completely black yet after stirring it for a while. So I'm not sure if this is how it originally looks like, but it definitely looks much darker than before. Now it's like a darker gray, before it's like a lighter gray. So I think I might just use this first to see how the stain looks like. If it's not black, then I probably want to repurchase a new one and not use this one. But yeah, I think for now, I can just make do with what I have at the moment. So I didn't film the entire process of me staining the wood pieces, but basically what I did was just sand down my wood pieces first, then only I started staining it. For the shelving pieces, I stained it with one layer first and then compared it with my existing one. Thankfully, one coat was already enough to match my existing one. But for the side panels, I actually had to coat it like 3 to 4 times before it was really black. So that one took a little bit more time. Then after I was done with that, I applied a layer of the hard wax oil to give it a little bit of a gloss. I think you're supposed to sand it down lightly again before applying the hard wax oil, but I was too lazy to do it, so I just went straight into it and it still turned out fine. And then once that was finally done, I could finally move on to assembling. The only problem that I didn't foresee was drilling in the back metal thing, which is used to stabilize the shelving. Because I'm attaching it to my existing shelving, I actually had to pull out the entire shelving because they're all attached together before I can actually start drilling in the metal stabilizer thing. I would say that that was the only inconvenient thing about installing this EVAR unit on my existing unit, but otherwise everything else was pretty much smooth sailing, I would say. And then I just adjusted the height of my shelving so that the stackable cabinet fits nicely in it. For the stackable cabinet, if you remember, I did had one that arrived with a missing handle, and I managed to claim a refund for just that one unit that didn't have the handles. So I ended up buying a stack of 6 this time instead of 5, so that one of them could actually replace the one with the missing handle, and I would still have a stack of 5 on each side. And once that was done, finally we have come to the organizational part, which I was really looking forward to because my craft room has been a mess for weeks. So I was pretty excited to finally clean the place up so that I can actually use the space. But yeah, this is how my mini yarn corner looks like, which I'm actually really loving how it looks. It kind of gives off a little bit of a yarn store kind of vibe. The space in each cabinet isn't really that spacious, I would say. If you're storing your yarns in a cake form like this, you could probably store about 16 balls in here. Potentially 24 if you squeeze a little, because there's actually still some space at the top here for you to add another 2 on each column. But for my purpose, I think it's fine because I kind of prefer to organize it in smaller sections so that it's easier for me to find and manage my yarns. Currently, I organize them based on the brands of the yarns / the country I got them from. So like for example, in this first cabinet here, I actually store all of the yarns that I got from my recent trip to Canada. It was actually my first time visiting Michael's and Walmart, and their selection of yarns there is a lot. Walmart wasn't as much, but the Michael's that I went had a large variety of yarns. I only got these loops and threads one, which is a little dual tone colored, and these 2 Bernard Yarnspiration yarns. And then the rest that are in this section, those are actually leftover yarns that were given to me for free by my relatives that we visited in Canada. So that's for the first section, and then for the next section down here, I actually store all of my yarns from Korea. These are actually all bought online from Shopee, but the seller's actually from Korea, so I store them all in this one section here. So that's for the second cabinet. And then for the bottom 3 cabinets, those are actually yarns that I bought online as well from Shopee, but from Indonesian sellers. So I stored them all in one section. I actually just segregated them by solid colors and also hand dyed, so that's easier. For the hand-dyed yarns, only these 2 are actually locally bought, so technically they shouldn't fall under here, but because it's also hand-dyed, so I kind of make the exception to store them here. And then for the bottom section here, these are also all hand-dyed yarns as well, which I bought for testing, so most of them actually only comes in 1 ball per color mix. So I store them all here. Honestly, buying hand-dyed yarns online is kind of a hit or miss for me, but I don't really have a choice because there isn't much physical stores that actually sell hand-dyed yarns in my area, except for the place that I bought this one from. But this place is actually quite a long drive from where I live, and they don't actually have a online catalog that I could look at before going in physically to buy. So most of the time I just ended up buying it online, which sometimes the colors aren't really great in person, so it really depends on my luck. But yeah, that's my section for all of my Indonesia yarns. And then also at the bottom here, I also have my more bulkier yarns. I bought 3 of these Karen Latte Cakes yarn from Spotlight before they actually closed down for good locally here, and that's basically all of the stock that they had left in stores at that point in time, because I couldn't find this particular yarn anywhere on Shopee or Etsy in this specific color variation, which is actually all gray. So I decided to buy all that they had in stores, even though I probably only needed 1 cake, because I wanted to make a bonnet / hood with this yarn. Probably if I have enough leftovers, I could make a matching scarf to go with it, but yeah, I have 3 cakes of this, and the very last cake of yarn that you see here, this one I actually got it during my trip to Japan. To be honest, I really had no idea what I wanted to make with this at the time when I bought this, but I really like how shiny the yarn is, which is also the reason why I ended up buying this. But yeah, this is the only ball that I purchased for this one. So that's for the bottom section, and then for the top 2 sections here, these are actually where I store all of my drops yarn. I stored all of my chunkier drops yarn at the top section here, which is mainly my drops air yarn, and I also have the drop snow, and then at the back there I have a drop sky yarn. And then at the bottom section, I also have some of my drops air yarn here, which couldn't fit at the top here. But for the most part in this section, I actually store all of my drops Paris yarn, and also some of my drops cotton light yarns, which are actually leftovers from my previous project. And then I still have another 2 cabinets which are still empty. And then at the bottom here, I have 2 bins, which used to be the only storage space that I had for my yarns. So for this bin, I basically store all of my milk cotton yarns, basically yarns that I wouldn't use for my bigger projects like my clothing and bag pieces. I mainly only use them to crochet smaller items like my flowers, accessories, and also my amigurumis. And because it's harder to see what colors I have in this bin, I actually created a yarn chart so that I know what colors that I actually have in here, and also which seller that I bought them from, so that's easier if I want to repurchase the yarn. And then in this next bin here, it contains all of my leftover yarns slash yarns that I really don't know how to sort at the top here, so I just chucked them down here. I have this fuzzy yarn that I got in Japan, and I really wanted to make this cute bear earphones case. This was actually the last ball that they had in store, so I just went ahead and got it, even though I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to be enough, but I think it should be. But it was also quite cheap. I think it was about like only 110 yen only, so I just went ahead and got it anyway because it wasn't that pricey to begin with. And also, these are all the yarns that I'm going to be donating, which is actually not a lot, to be honest, considering the amount of yarn that I have in my yarn stash. But I would say that for the most part, I already have projects in mind for them. So technically, I don't think I hoarded a lot of yarns. But yeah, this is the overall look of my yarn corner. For this stackable cabinet, it actually also comes with rollers that you can actually attach at the bottom, for those of you who actually don't prefer to stack it up like how I did it. So you have the rollers for that, and it's also a more convenient option if you guys want to make it movable. But I kind of didn't like the idea that the bottom cabinet would be less accessible or harder to see what yarns I have down there. So that's why I actually opted for a more eye level view, so that's easier to see what yarns I have at a glance. So this is how my craft room looks right now with my new little yarn corner right there. Hopefully the storage there is going to be enough for all of my yarns in the long run. But yeah, that is basically it for today's video. If you made it until this section of this video, thank you so much. And if you like this video, please don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you like this type of content, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!